Hello? And we are live with another Project Console podcast. And before we get started, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hmm.
Who'd like to
Welcome,
go?
ladies.
Anybody? Any takers?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen,
Okay, there you go.
the to Project Console. I am Joy Eli Moonstar, and we have a fine selection of choices for you today.
This was the Red Fox, owner, proprietor, host of BS Busters, where we basically put a spotlight on questionable practices in gaming. We also celebrate pop culture in gaming, so it's a duality podcast. But yeah, every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. That's what we do. That's it, Mr. Red Fox.
And this is Kenoshi Abominito. I don't really have a snazzy introduction, but this is just Kenoshi Abominito. So, well, the first topic we have is so a few weeks ago, Metroid Dread came out, and they were advertising the hell out of this game, uh, from its announcement to its release. Like, as it pertains to Metroid games, I don't think I've ever seen a Metroid game get this much
Advertisement.
Yeah,
Not since Metroid Prime on the GameCube.
yeah. So yeah, they're definitely they're definitely pushing this game, which, you know, Metroid seems to be the or Samus seems to be the blonde-haired, forgotten stepchild sometimes. But with the release of Metroid Dread, um, people have there has been a newfound interest in the Metroid series. I've been hearing people going back to like the old 2D Metroid games, like Metroid Fusion and Super Metroid. The only way you can play these games is either obviously through, which is the easiest way, is through emulation or through the Wii U or Wii Virtual Console, if you still have those systems around.
Yep, it's
So,
the only way.
so have you guys gone back to any of the? Have you guys finished? Have any of you finished Metroid Dread yet?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm in like the last stretch of the game.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not with the people who are like, "This is the best Metroid game ever." It's pretty good.
I was
It's
going to say
solid.
it's a solid game, yeah, right?
I mean, of the quote unquote modern 2D Metroid games, I would put it. It's not quite as good as Fusion. Yeah, I said it. Um, it's. Let me put it this way: it's better than the Samus Returns 2 remake that this same studio made. But it's not as good as the Fusion and Zero Mission remakes from the GBA era. So it's solid. If I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a C plus, B minus. No, C plus.
Well, I'm not surprised at that one.
It doesn't. I mean, I can't give it a B because if I gave it a B, it would be on par with Zero Mission, which is a B, and it's not as good as Zero Mission. So I can't put it with the
I
Zero
was
Mission
going to
because it's not
say,
as good as Zero Mission.
I thought you would put it with Fusion.
No, Fusion's an A. Fusion is an A. Zero Mission is a B. This game's a C plus. It's not as good as either of those two games. It's better than the Samus Returns remake that was like a D. So I mean, but as far as 2D Metroid games goes, it's pretty good. Here, I'll tell you something surprising. The first Metroid game is an F because that game is terrible.
Oh yeah.
If anything, I think that's because you have no beeping direction of where to go.
Oh yeah, you can get lost in the game, but here's where the game basically where that backfires on you. In order to get the best ending of the game, you have to beat it in under 30 minutes. For a
And
game where there's no map and you can get lost and you don't know where to go. and you have to have a certain amount of sub tanks and energy tanks and
Power up.
missile upgrades and power ups in order to really complete it. So, like, unless you've played it before and you have a map that you have a mental map or a physical map that you've written it down on graph paper, then the game is basically like the first time you play it, you're going to get a terrible ending. Why would you make a game that's so obtuse where the first time you play it, even if you do your best, you're going to get a terrible ending?
I
That's
was gonna
bad
say
game design. Okay?
that's on par with nearly the first two Zeldas.
Yeah, yeah, that's bad game design. So yeah, the first Metroid game gets an F for that. It gets an F grade. It's not,
Reason why
you know.
reason why people prefer Zero Mission than the original.
I would tell anyone if you're going to play the original Metroid. I mean, chronologically, the original Metroid. Don't play the original on the NES or a version of that game. Play Zero Mission. It's much better. It's much better designed. It's just better. It's a better game. But anyway,
Yeah. I think I watched a review on Super Metroid that made me want to go back and play that game. Thought that was at least pertaining to the 2D Metroid games, probably the best. Maybe closely behind or closely ahead of Zero Mission. Not sure yet.
Super Metroid is a leap forward. Super Metroid is basically kind of like what it's what you can tell from the design philosophy. It's what they were trying to do with the original Metroid. But the problem is that the original Metroid was on the NES, and they only had so much system resources and power to really um, to utilize what they wanted, what they envisioned. Um, So for me, that's where, because there's like gameplay improvements that Fusion and Zero Mission do that I wish they had in Super Metroid, like ledge grabbing, ledge grabbing, and then rolling up into a morph ball in order to go into certain areas. That's a minor thing, but it's really, really useful. And you don't have that in Super Metroid.
No.
Um, you know, the cool thing about Super Metroid though is that they added you could have all those power ups on at one time instead of having to switch and like I can't have this one if I have this one. So I mean, I like how the Metroid series by and large has added things with each new iteration to make the game better. I'll give it that much credit.
Z- um, Zero Mission is the definitive way to play the first game.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it After you play Zero Mission, if you've played the first game and played Zero Mission, the first game is practically unplayable.
It is.
That's a rough game, but
That game, it's like I can't. Bad.
yeah.
I can't even use the words to describe how bad the first Metroid is. It's very important. It's not like Super Mario Brothers, where Super Mario Brothers has rough edges, but there's still something you can still play it. Trying to go back and play the original Metroid after playing the later games in that franchise is darn near impossible.
As it pertains to history, as it pertains to gaming history, it's important, but because I don't know why Metroid, why Castlevania shares this. I think it was Grimpachi made this point. Why Castlevania also shares some of the credit that the Metroid series started. A
Yeah, I don't know
multi-directional
either.
2D. Yeah, I've
This
always
Castle,
I've always hated the word Metroidvania. It's just the word, I think everybody, you know, hates that term as it pertains to
Well,
that particular genre.
because
So
it's
we're
a
kind of
useful
stuck.
catch-all. It's a universal catch-all term.
I mean, I understand that we're
I mean,
stuck
it's
with
a
it.
useful
So
catch-all term. Sorry.
I understand that we're stuck with it. So
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, it's either that or you call every game that's like the castle, like every Castlevania game, at Symphony of the Night and moving forward, because that's when the Castlevania games became like that. They weren't like that before Symphony of the Night. You just say, well, it's an action adventure game with exploration and backtracking. Like, if you had to say that every time you want to talk about a game that had those aspects, it would be very difficult.
Or it's
So they just use Metroidvania.
or it's a multi-directional platformer. That doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
No,
So
so it's a Metroidvania, and they don't want
yeah,
to say it's a Metroidia because then it's like, well, there's other games besides Metroid that do that. Oh, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of like when people, because I remember the big thing when I was in college was that they always wanted to use the word synergy,
yeah,
and like I got tired of hearing. I'm like, man, if you say synergy one more time, I'm gonna punch you in the throat.
yeah. That's
Well,
another that's
hey,
another term that
there's
needs to
one
go.
thing to that's one thing to remember.
We
That's
can
another term.
synergize.
Yeah. See, that's another term I hate, but we're stuck with, and it
Yeah.
ain't going anywhere. So whatever. But speaking of things that aren't going anywhere, another Switch rumor, another Switch Pro rumor. This
Oh my
this
Oh,
god.
this
come
beast
on, not again.
this beast will never die.
This thing's
It's
like
eternal.
Dracula. It just keeps on coming back.
So
And they like. I mean, we a month like this. Yeah,
Yeah.
of all things.
Surprise! You thought you killed me! You shot me! I'll be
yeah.
back!
This this is this is as bad as Dio versus Alucard in Death Battle.
I didn't
Well,
watch it, so.
so a so another Nintendo insider states that this Switch revision or the Switch successor, because you can't go with the Switch Pro anymore, because those dreams have been dashed. So the Switch successor will come out next year. Um, it'll come out next year. It'll be a more powerful Switch. Here's the thing. I don't think it'll come out next year. Heck, I don't even think it's going to be announced next year. If it's announced next year, it will be announced late next year. Probably within the middle to near the end of the year. Because the OLED just came out. And they want to sell those things. It'd just be kind of a thumb in the eye if we say, yeah, we got this new, more powerful Switch coming
Yeah.
out
Nintendo
next
isn't
year.
pulling a Sega.
Yeah. They aren't going to announce it next year. They're probably going to announce it 2023. And it'll probably come out 2020, late 2023 or early 2024.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. Let's see.
Yeah.
Of course, it won't be called the Switch Pro, and it will be an entirely new machine. Um, here's the rub. Here's the bad news. Rumor has it that it won't have backwards compatibility, but supposedly Nintendo is figuring out a workaround. So either A, they're using a different kind of cartridge, or B, they're using a different sort of chipset. Now, people are saying that it's going to use NVIDIA's DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling, which is their proprietary sort of anti-aliasing, making games look better by using less resources. So, uh, and yeah, 4K will be achievable through DLSS, and supposedly large publishers got dev kits in 2020. Smallers will get it this year, and games are set to be done by 2022, or supposedly. So, what do you guys think?
You guys seriously got to stop pushing for more Switch Pro ideas. It's getting kind of old.
Nintendo's always been, it seems to
Yeah.
be the biggest victim when it comes to these leaks. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are supposed leaks and theories about the PS5 and Xbox Series X, but I don't know. They just seem to be more apparent with Nintendo. Maybe it's because I follow Nintendo a bit more, or maybe it's because Nintendo's always been a bit of a mystery when it comes to how they do things.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna take off my diving robe and take a dive into this pool. um, so basically, this rumor is once again a load of
Dung.
equine scatology. The reason it's a load of equine scatology is because three reasons. First, Nintendo is cheap. All right. Um, Nintendo, like the technology that's in the Switch was hot 7 years ago, like 8 years ago. By the time the Switch came out, it was obsolete. Okay. Nvidia's DLSS, their super sampling just really became commercially viable like last year. Nintendo is not using anything that's that recent relevant because it's going to be expensive. You're going to have a Nintendo console that's going to cost you like $500. And that's not the sweet spot for people buying Nintendo products.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
it's only accessible through the RTX cards. It hasn't, unless unless it is accessible to their lower cards. But
Even if
as
they
far
make a
as I
custom
know,
chipset, it's still going to be too expensive
yeah,
for mass marketability.
yeah,
Um, so that's the first reason. Second reason, Nintendo at this point has no incentive to come out with better hardware for the Switch. Any R&D that's going on for better hardware is going to be for their next console because I know people are going to get angry when they hear this. The Switch's hardware is holding it back. Okay?
I've heard that a million times already.
And when I say the hardware, I don't just mean, the graphics, because here's the thing. For Nintendo first party games and second party exclusives, it doesn't matter. But for multi-plat, it's going to be built upon, okay, developers realize, okay, we don't have to spend money to actually get these games to run on the hardware. Instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to have it streamed to the system. The problem with that is that in order for streaming to really work, the power of the cloud is you need a dynamite internet connection. And a lot of people don't have a dynamite internet connection. For example, I have unlimited upload and I have no data cap on my home internet. Okay, none. I can upload, download as much as I want. Okay, I pay a flat rate every month. Actually, I pay it every 3 months, but I do my 90 days. It's easier that way for me. But I pay, but the average Joe Blow average consumer a lot of people have really basic internet where they might have a data cap of like 50 gigs or 250 gigs or 300 gigs. Now, if you're streaming a game that in order for you to play like 3 hours of it, you use 30 gigs, right? And you play, let's say you have 3 games and you play 3 hours of that and you stream 30 gigs of that, for 3 hours. And let's say your data cap for your month is 500 gigs. It's 30 gigs per hour for you to stream it through the power of the cloud. That's 120 gigs per game for playing it for 3 hours, okay? 3 of those games you are already at 360 gigs. Okay, that's not including streaming movies. That's not including, watching YouTube. Because a lot of people cut the cord, and so their data connection isn't cable, which is basically just the signal being beamed directly to your cable box. It's you using the internet to power your entertainment. So within 2 or 3 weeks, let's say half a month, you've reached your data limit. So then you have overages because you went over your data cap. That you can't have that. Nintendo's the Switch has really cheap onboard Wi-Fi chip, Wi-Fi apparatus, which means even if you have really good Wi-Fi, the Switch can't take advantage of it because Nintendo, being cheap, because they are cheap, use the cheapest things they could use for their wireless connection. Same thing with their wired connection on the Switch. The wired connection on on your Switch, if you use the wired dongle, if you have the OG original Switch or the OLED Switch, is using not really that great of a wired LAN Ethernet connection. So even if you have really good internet, the hardware is holding the Switch back from a lot of gameplay experiences. Even if you're doing just cloud-based gaming, the hardware is holding it back. So at this point, the Switch is at this point it's at its 5-year mark. It's getting to the end of its life cycle. They released this really nice OLED model, but guess what? Nintendo released the new 3DS in the last 18 months of the 3DS's life cycle. 2 years of the 3DS's life cycle. And for Nintendo, they say, this is a console. For Nintendo, with the way the sales are and the way people are using the Switch, it's a handheld. Okay? Switch is a handheld for that company. So, there's no reason for them to release a new version of the Switch at this point. Zero.
Look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for most people. I know for the longest time people have dreamed about Nintendo having as powerful, or if not more powerful, hardware than Sony and Microsoft, with all of their great first-party exclusives, utilizing that power. I hate to disappoint you. That just isn't going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I mean,
take that idea, write it on a piece of paper, ball it up, and throw it in the trash. Okay,
it's not those days are long gone.
The last time Nintendo had a really powerful console was the GameCube, and people picked on it because it looked like a toy box, a lunchbox.
It looks like a lunchbox. So yeah,
and it was still the most powerful console Nintendo ever made.
Yeah, and
and people still roasted it.
And the Wii sold significantly
better than that.
It outsold its competition.
Yep.
And it was just two GameCubes duct taped together. Basically. So it's just why go balls to the wall as it pertains to power, as it pertains to this, pseudo top of the line hardware? Because obviously Microsoft and Sony are using top of the line hardware from 24 years ago.
Not really, but the only incentive Nintendo has to have better hardware is when it impedes their ability to make certain games. It's their own internal thing, and at this point, like I said, the limitations of the Switch's hardware are showing because their first-party games, even in the first 2 years of that console coming out, of their gaming device coming out, there are first-party games that run like a dog with no legs. Okay, well, they're not that bad, but they run like a three-legged dog. Three-legged dog's not going to run as well as a four-legged dog. They don't run all that well. Like I said, 2 Nintendo first-party games crashed on me. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, which was their flagship game for that system. Breath of the Wild sold the Switch its first year. People were buying that system to play that game on the new system. And that game, if you ran it for too long, if you played that game for too long, there would be a memory bleed and the game would start to slow down and you'd see imperfections like areas not loading properly and stuff like that on first-party hardware. Now, like I said, I've seen games run poorly on
And
from
and this is
third
to keep in,
parties,
and I
but
was
these are
about to say,
first-party games.
this is to keep in mind. This was a two system a two system game. I mean, it was supposed to go
No
to the
excuse.
PU and oh, come off it, Red. If
No
anything,
excuse.
Red, come off it. I'm going to
No
say this right now.
excuse.
No, I'm going to say that if anything, you could aim that with Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Nope. No
Uh-uh.
excuse.
Uh-uh. Red, I'm saying that if anything, this was a dual system release and they obviously cut corners on it. So if anything, I could at least hit that on its own merit. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that's a
Okay, you
clear
can
shot.
take that excuse. You can take that bandage and put
Oh,
it on that wound, that gunshot.
oh,
But the
come off
fact
it,
of the
Red.
matter is this.
Red,
The
I'm
fact of the
saying this
matter
right
is,
now. I'm trying to say that the Breath of the Wild was a two console shot. Meaning that it, and if anything, it was the thing that was shafted, at least most, because it was trying to do for two systems. While, if anything, it means that there were some things that are taken out and things that were not optimized at all for
you
it.
know what else was a two console game
And nice
that
try, Red. I'm not
also
buying your BS
that
on that,
also came out well and didn't
Red.
crash?
Red,
Twilight
not
Yeah.
Princess.
helping yourself here.
Twilight Princess was on the GameCube and the Wii,
Uh,
and that game ran well on both consoles. So that is not an excuse.
Well, I mean, the
Red,
thing.
Anyway, as I was
you're
saying,
lying yourself here.
so anyway, as I was saying, so yeah, that's all I'm saying is that
Uh huh.
like at this point, the
Keep stretching
hardware, the
yourself.
age of the hardware is showing, and that's holding the system back. Now, this wasn't an issue, 3, 4, 5 gens ago when the consoles weren't expected to do all this stuff. You didn't have to worry about streaming on the Super Nintendo or the NES or the N64. You didn't have to worry about it being connected to the internet. You didn't have to worry about all these other things that now these systems are expected to do. Now, you can't just have a custom chipset, custom hardware, and expect, using some old technology and think, okay, this is going to hold us for like 5, 6, 7 years. Unfortunately, with all the other stuff that's being heaped onto these consoles that they're expected to do these days, you can't do it. You need to have better hardware.
And
And that's just it's like this. It's like you can't expect a car from 20 years ago to be able to compete to a car that came out last year. Even if you kept that 20-year car immaculate, got it maintained, kept it up, you can't, because there's things that the car now can do just by virtue of it being something that's more relevant that the car from 20 years ago can't. Like 20 years ago, that car from 20 years ago might, if you show it to a kid who was born 10 years ago, they'll have no concept of Windows that you have to roll up with your hand manually. They have no concept of a cassette player in the car from 20 years ago because they might not even know CDs. I mean,
yeah, there are
that's
cars that don't have any CDs. But also, another thing about Breath of the Wild is it seemed to be just a last minute port because the Wii wasn't doing so well. And, you know, like I
could be the
said,
case.
yeah, I think the
I ain't
Switch
letting
was,
that go.
That could
think-
be the case.
and I think the Switch was rushed because, again, the Wii wasn't doing so well. Their investors weren't too happy.
And they were like, we gotta change the rails.
Yeah.
We got to jump from one rail. Look, I'm not saying that those aren't reasons, but here's the thing: I cannot, in one breath, say
Mhm.
that Nintendo has the best first-party developers in the industry. Which, in my opinion, even though they kind of messed up a bit on some of those ports from the Wii U to the Switch, I still do consider them to have some of the best first-party developers. But I can't sit there and say they're the best first-party developers and then give them a pass when they port a game to their new console that's crashing while you're playing it. I can't. I can't give them a pass for that.
Yeah.
If you mess up, you mess up. I can't be like, well, it's different. No, you messed up. Deal with it. Do better. So yeah, for me, yeah, they messed up on that. That was on them. That was their. But no, back to the original point, as you said, Kenoshi, they are not releasing a new Switch. And any rumor where someone's like, there's a new Switch coming out, okay. Do I think that Nintendo may have development kits going out to to developers? Yes. Do I think it's for a new Switch? No. I think it's for
a new system.
A new system. Do I think that the new system is going to be compatible with the Switch? If they're smart, they will have backwards compatibility because the Switch has sold over 100 million units, and it doesn't make sense to say, hey, all you people who spent, hundreds, if not, $1,000 on games for our Switch and our subpar online services, guess what? Our new stuff's coming out, and you can't use any of your old stuff with the new stuff. That would be stupid. But like I said,
I was going to say that if anything, this would be what happened between the Wii U and the Switch all over again.
Yes, but the Wii U sold around 10 million units. Completely different animal. You know how a lot of the peripherals on the Wii were compatible with the Wii U because the Wii sold over 100 million units? Same thing. So the next console, if they're smart, will have at least game backwards compatibility, physical media backwards compatibility with their next device. Because you don't want to say F you to the new people. Either that or the next console better have some amazing hardware capabilities to where they cannot. It's not the architecture is so different that they can't have physical backwards compatibility. If they say some BS like they did with the virtual console. Or not like Sony did, where it's emulating. Heck, I'll even take software emulation, where you put the cartridge in there and it just it basically emulates a Switch on the new hardware, so that you can play your Switch games on the new hardware.
The Wii U did with the Wii, right?
No, the Wii U was playing Wii games. It wasn't emulation. It was physically playing Wii games. Just like the Wii was playing GameCube games.
Okay.
It was physically playing GameCube games. But no, kind of like how the Xbox emulates, the Xbox Series S and X emulate, the Xbox Series X emulates like past Xbox games. I'm okay with that. If you can take your Switch library and emulate it on your next home console, I'll be cool with that. The real kicker is if they let you migrate your digital library like you could from your DS to your 3DS or your Wii to your Wii U. That will be the real test. Because if they're going to make people buy all that stuff all over again, I'm going to have a problem.
Yeah. Well, aside from aside from Switch rumors, even though that people, I don't know. I don't see it ending until somebody announces something. People want to have their name in the paper, I guess, or on these various websites.
I mean, they can announce whatever they want. I'm just looking at it from a business standpoint, because Nintendo is a business first. They have no incentive. It's like, why would you change your recipe if your original recipe is selling and continues to sell? Like, the sales aren't really dipping all that much, aside from normal end of life cycle. Like, at this point, the only way Nintendo Switch sales are going down is that the people who have Switches are happy with what they have and they're not upgrading. Because I don't think the OLED sold as well as Nintendo may have wanted it to. I don't think it sold like, oh my God, everyone has to have this. I think it sold okay. Because the people who have Switches are happy with what they have. They're like, I'm happy with what I have. I don't want to really upgrade.
Well, that's
It's
the
the reason.
thing. The Switch is either A, it's either A, people have it because they really like Nintendo games and they're used to playing stuff on their tablet, so they have a relatively decent library of games that they can play on, this tablet device. Or B, it's a companion device to something else. Maybe their PC or maybe their PlayStation 4 or 5 or Xbox One or Series X.
Yep.
It's but I mean it's still doing well. Last month, which goes into the third topic. Last month, the Nintendo Switch saw strong sales, outpacing the PS5 in units, but not in uh, not in profits, which is interesting. I don't
That
know.
feels a little weird.
No, it makes sense. Like I said, you're reaching market saturation with people who is like, because not everyone's going to want to switch.
Yeah,
It's just not going to scratch every market. So the people who have Switches you know, have bought what they wanted. Because I know a lot of people bought multiple Switches. Like people have their Switch and then they got a Switch Lite for their kids. You know, so um, like I think you've reached market saturation with the Switch. If you find anyone else buying a Switch, it'll be like, people who are upgrading from the Switch to the OLED Switch, maybe, but that's not going to be a huge number. You're reaching into life cycle at this point for the Switch.
yeah. I mean,
They'll probably have like maybe one or two big hurrah games coming out next year. At this point, I hope
Bayonetta,
they don't
probably.
put. Yeah, Bayonetta, but I hope Metroid Prime 4 is just moved to the next console because I don't want
Yeah.
that game to have to be stripped down to run on 8-year-old hardware.
yeah. I mean,
Like I don't want
it's
that game being handicapped to run on 8-year-old hardware. I don't want it. I want Metroid Prime 4 to blow my mind. I want to land on a planet and have a whole world to explore. I want to get in her ship and fly someplace else and have another world to explore. And not areas like hallways and corridors and arenas. I mean worlds. And you can't do that on the Switch at this point. Because we saw how they tried to do that on Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that game struggles to run to load those areas, and that's like the one of the bigger games the Switch had in terms of multiple areas and stuff. And I don't want one of my favorite franchises to be hamstrung to get it to run on old hardware. So you know.
and forgot what I was gonna say. Damn.
You were talking about the Switch sales numbers.
Oh yeah, the Switch sales numbers. It's definitely not gonna do DS or Wii numbers. I
No,
don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna get anywhere close to that.
I think at this point we have to measure the Switch because most people are using it as a handheld, so you have to count it against the handheld numbers. It's not going to surpass the DS.
Yeah,
It's not going to break 155 million units sold. I don't see that happening.
I don't think we're
Um,
gonna see anything like that for a while,
no,
pertaining to any of these consoles,
no.
because there's just so many ways to play games now.
Yeah, I mean, I told you when I was a kid, when I was younger, like during the DS, 3DS days, you go to the store, to a grocery store, and you'd see the kids going, being pushed around in the cart, and they'd have their DS in front of them. Now it's all smartphones and tablets.
Yeah,
Like that's what parents get to keep their kids busy. When I was a kid, what I had to keep me busy was a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, right? That's what kept me busy. Now it's all smartphones. So that has kind of eaten into that market of I need something to keep my kid quiet for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. It's not a Nintendo handheld anymore. It's a smartphone or a tablet. So,
also go.
that's what it is.
I mean, we're even getting to that point where there are different ways to play the big exclusive console games. God of War just got announced for PC. So that's
Yeah.
they
But you
didn't
know why that is, right?
they didn't make enough money back on that game, and plus, they want to branch PlayStation out.
Yeah, and there's a whole market out there that Sony isn't touching, the PC market.
Yeah, they see Microsoft's
Hmm.
had a has had some success with putting their games on PC, so they're like, hey, we want that.
Yeah.
We want some of that money too. So
Well, I mean, let's keep it real. Well, let's call a spade a spade. The only company who has strong enough first party games that sell gangbusters and make a lot of money is Nintendo's.
yeah,
Sony doesn't have that. Even though Sony fanboys just love, like, oh no, the Sony's first party games. I'm like, look, you like Sony's first party game. The vast majority of people who own Sony consoles aren't buying them. Okay.
yeah. What was it? It was the year where the Wii wasn't coming out with anything. It's pretty much its last year. People were making fun of that fact, and the PS3 had all these games coming out. Only like one or two of them sold well.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think our Uncharted 3 came out that year. And as it pertains to their first party catalog,
Choices.
catalog with Sony, they have their favorites. They'll push one first party game, but completely leave the other ones high and dry.
Yeah, they really don't. They'll only give the push or the nod to certain games, which is kind of sad because they do. I mean, like, even though we like to poke fun at Sony. Sony does have a catalog of some relatively decent first party games. Like, why haven't they done a remake of Legend of Dragoon? Why haven't they done a remake of Legend of Legaia 1 and 2? Why haven't they done a remake of the Wild Arms? Like, reboot Wild Arms. Everything they keep on rebooting is like,
Going in and out.
well, it's kind of like, okay, they keep on doubling down on Uncharted, and they're releasing an Uncharted movie, which has some of the most bizarre casting I've ever seen. And Last of Us.
Is it as bizarre as the Mario movie?
Well, no, it's the Mario movie. Okay, the Mario movie, even though it's bizarre, it makes sense because Chris Pratt is popular, and Illumination's like, we need to get a popular name on here in order to sell it. But Tom Holland looks like, even though he's like close to 30, he looks like he's 15. And Tom Holland's 5'6". Nathan Drake's like 6'1", 6'2".
No, we'll just use CGI to make up for it because that's just how we do things. If there's a mistake,
Tom Holland's too short.
If there's a mistake, CGI.
You can't CGI height. It looks weird. They've tried it. It's like you're too short. Yeah, Tom Holland is too short to play Nathan Drake, but they're gonna put him in there because they want to. But yeah, it's like Sony at this point. Like Sony, you're right. Sony only has certain people. Like, they'll give the nod to certain games to give the push to. And the thing is like, even though, like I said, we talk a lot of trash about Sony on these podcasts, in my podcast, even a little bit on your podcast, Sony does have a bevy of first-party games they could be pushing. And yet they keep on falling on Gran Turismo, Uncharted, God of War, Last of Us, and some indies.
And I was about to say, and if I remember right, a few of those sunk like the Titanic in the ocean.
Well, Gran Turismo has been losing money for them for years. Even though, if you look at the numbers over time, Gran Turismo is Sony's most highest selling first party Gran Turismo is their highest selling first party. The problem is that they have to spend a lot of money licensing those courses and the cars for the courses. So like a lot of money goes into making that game, but a lot of money goes out because they got to pay out proceeds to
Royalties.
stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of the downside of Gran Turismo. But I mean, a lot of people like that game.
I was gonna say that there's other first parties that are not caught in that trap, but as I said, some of them are sinking like the Titanic.
I mean, I want them like
I
want
said
any
some.
company to fail.
I'm just trying to figure out which one. I'm just trying to remember which ones because mo the one that stands out to me the most would be the Last of Us one, being that
I mean, but Sony has a lot of games they could be pushing. They could be pushing Ratchet and Clank, although they kind of are with that new game. They could be pushing a new Jack and Daxter. They could be pushing The Adventures of Coffee and Cream. They could be pushing.
games that were on there that were on the PS1 and try to revive them.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon. Legend of Dragoon is a Sony first party game. They paid for that game to get made. Legend of Legaia 1 and 2. They could push for those games to be a remake of those games. Like Dark Cloud is a Sony paid for those games to get made. So why don't they bring those games back? Like Sony is just weird like that. They really and I mean they have money. Like I know they aren't balling like they were in the fifth gen, but they have money. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's Sony's a weird company. Going back to Uncharted 3.
And
I
and
I
remember they recently moved from Japan to USA.
Yeah.
I remember when Uncharted 3 came out, and again they had a plethora of games that they could have pushed, but every time I clicked on a YouTube video, I always saw a commercial for Uncharted 3. So it's just like, you know, are you expecting this game to make all of your money? Like, you have, are you putting your eggs all in this one basket? You have other studios. You
You
have
know what
other
it
games that
is?
are coming out.
You know what it is, right?
What is it?
They're doing targeted marketing, and they know that they're basically what they're looking at is, hey, these people who are buying our games are in a certain age group, they're a certain gender, and we have focus groups that tell us that this certain age group, this certain gender likes to play these types of games. And yes, I understand sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to go with age groups and all that type of stuff. But sometimes you got to take a chance and, support multiple things. And, the problem with Sony right now is that they are just consistently they're ignoring so much other cool stuff.
Yeah.
And that bothers me because even though I talk a lot of junk about Sony, I like a lot of their games. That's the thing. Like I said, Wild Arms. I loved Wild Arms. Ark the Lad. I loved the Lad. It was a great tactical game. It wasn't on the level of it wasn't on the level of of Final Fantasy Tactics, but it was pretty good. Nah, we're just gonna keep on pushing these action game lights.
Yeah. And not to mention these sort of movie walking simulators with heavy scripted action sequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pushing those too. But hey, what are you gonna do? They that's where they make their money. But
Oh no,
what
I just don't buy them.
What?
They can make more money if they put other stuff out. Is what I'm saying.
What? Yeah, I understand that. It's just what's gonna happen when these people get bored of these games and they stop making money. Or what are you gonna do then? It's just that's why you gotta diversify your first party out. Diversify your first party portfolio.
This is a PG cast, but when you say diversify, it's like the Wu-Tang investment firm for Chappelle's show. Diversify your bonds. Yeah, diversify. Anyway, yeah. But anyway, just saying, yeah, they should, but they won't. I mean, Nintendo suffers from the same thing. Nintendo pushes Mario, pushes Zelda. They gave the push to Metroid. But, I mean, look, this year's the 40th anniversary of Donkey Kong. Did Nintendo do anything for Donkey Kong? No.
No.
But Nintendo has an excuse. They're a small company that has a lot of money, but they're a small company. Anyway.
So
Sorry.
so the next topic is the Best Buy PS5 scheme. So essentially, you can get a PlayStation 5 at Best Buy, but there's
What's
a
the
catch. You gotta buy into their $200 warranty scheme in order to have access to it.
So you're paying $800 because the PS5 is $599, isn't it? Or is it $499?
I think it's $499. So $700.
No, let me look that up because I want to lie. I don't want to say something. PS5 price.
If that's the case, then you're likely getting ripped off a lot more than the scalpers are doing it.
Sorry. For the base model of the PS5, it's $500. So you're paying $700 for the. You're paying $200 for the chance to buy a PS5.
Sorry, isn't this a scalper's paradise idea?
I mean, they're doing it allegedly to fight against scalping. Yeah, because you have to pay $200. It's a $200 buy-in to get the chance to buy. But anyway,
I'm trying not to face palm because that is both stupid and yet smart at the same time that it hurts my head.
but I'm sorry. What were you saying,
Kanoshi?
Yeah, so you have to buy into this $200 scheme, this warranty scheme, in order to have access to get a PS5. So yeah, I mean, if you really want a PS5 instead of paying $1,200 on eBay, you can go to Best Buy, hope and pray that they have one, and pay $700 instead. Do you want to get ripped off a little, or do you want to get ripped off a lot?
It's like, do you want to just get stabbed a little bit with the knife, or do you want it fully inserted into your flesh?
Yeah.
I mean, because you can deal with a little prick, but a full insertion, that they're bleeding out, you die. Organs have been damaged.
Or you have to wear a colostomy bag for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so those are your choices. I mean, like, here, I don't know. Personally, I mean, it is a scheme, but it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It is a scheme, but I mean, anything that goes against these scalpers so that they can't, because scalpers have already taken over the N64, the Nintendo stuff. Scalpers have bought the living daylights out of the N64 controllers, so you can't even get them on Nintendo's eShop. I mean, Nintendo's online shop.
There was somebody that shared a screenshot of the N64 controller and the Sega Genesis controller. It's Nintendo saying, "Oh, now on sale." And the second I saw this, like, now they're gone. Don't even try.
Yep. Yep.
I think it's dumb that it's hidden behind that these controllers are hidden behind the online service. You can't just
the
buy
worst
them. You
thing.
have to be the.
Well, the worst thing is that you can buy a USB controller that works with your online service, a USB-C controller that is just as good as what they have right now. Because the N64 controller they have online doesn't have a rumble pack, doesn't support the memory card, and apparently the emulator that they're using for the N64 online doesn't support rumble packs or memory cards either. So it's a mess. It's a mess. Scalpers suck.
Yeah, they do.
I was about to say, scalpers, they suck no matter which category you're in, be
Let me
it
put it this way.
video game or card game.
There's a special place in Gehenna reserved for scalpers.
And if anybody was wondering, Gehenna is a special place known as Hades. If I
It's a
get it right.
euphemism for it's a euphemism for hell, but I prefer Gehenna or the layers of Hades.
Yeah.
But I hate those people. I hate scalpers because they make stuff that should be just as. These are the same people who, when we had the toilet paper shortages, would go places and buy tons and tons of toilet paper, so there was nothing left for anybody else. I hate you people. There's a special place for you people in heck. And you know, like, I'm not a violent person, but if someone could take a glass tube, and shove it, oh. I hate you people. That's all I'm saying.
Allow me, Red. We kind of wish that we could send a glass tube that is hollow, mind you, up those people's rectums and then stuff them with various unpleasant objects.
Well, I was going to say army ants, but if you're going to go with unpleasant objects. But anyway, all I'm saying is this. I hate scalpers. I hate you people. I hate you. And I said because this year I was going to build a new PC. I have been emulating, I have the motherboard. It's a dynamite high quality motherboard. I have the case. I have the cooler. I have the wiring. I have the SD. I have the M.2 hard drives. I have the coolers for the M.2. I have everything I need but a CPU and a GPU. You want to know why? Because of scalpers.
And
because
there's a special place for you, Bitcoin scalping maniacs out there.
And in order for me to get the because this motherboard has been built specifically for certain types of CPUs and GPUs, like it's optimized for that. In order for me to get even the lowest end CPU and GPU for this build, I would have to spend like $3,500.
Yeah, it is absolutely out of control.
For something that before these scalpers got to it would have cost me like $1,200.
Yeah.
So you know what? I hate you people. To quote the Player Haters Club, I hope everything bad happens to you and nobody but you.
Yeah, they're terrible.
As I sip my soda that I'm sure someone spit in, I hope something bad happens to you and only to you. Hate, 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 hate. I've been watching a lot of Chappelle's Show lately. Sorry.
The amount of hate is unmeasurable, and I wish it all upon thee, and no one else to be affected by it.
Yeah, just scalpers.
Yeah.
Like if a plane dumps its doo-doo water, its toilet water, and it freezes in the air and it kills someone, I hope it happens to you and you're a scalper. Only scalpers. I don't want anyone else to die from like, this person died because toilet water froze and smashed into their face and killed them. But if you're a scalper and you're buying this stuff at $600, $700, $800 and then reselling it for like $2,000, $3,000, I hope something bad happens to you and nobody else but you. You have to suffer. I'm sorry.
Indeed, especially for you scalpers that really burn up all the resources just for your own sake.
You can't do anything. You can't buy a next gen console because of scalpers. You can't buy PC parts to make a PC. The only way you can buy a PC is if you get a pre-made one.
About that.
You can't even get a PC now unless you buy a pre-made one. And the only reason you get pre-made ones is because they already had their supplies set in their warehouses.
And pre-made ones suck.
I mean,
you can find good pre-made ones. They're not all terrible, but you know, a lot of them you can't recycle.
I mean, if you get a pre-made Dell, yes. Dell makes really bad pre-made PCs or Alienware. If it's Dell, anything associated with Dell, it's terrible. But if you can get a pre-made one from like CyberPower or Master PC, Yeah. So, like, basically, if you get a pre-made PC or even a pre-made laptop, you want something that you can open up and clean out and add new stuff to if you want to. Like, expand the memory, put in a new hard drive. You want expandability and the ability to open up and maintain it. Because if you can't maintain your electronics, like, would you buy a car that you couldn't open up the hood and check the oil gauge? No, you would not. So why would someone sell you a PC that you can't open it up and make sure everything's connected and everything's working? Like that's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Sorry I went off on that rant on scalpers, but I hate those people. I hate them.
Oh yeah. We all hate scalpers.
At least the three of us could agree on something on this podcast.
Something. All
Oh
right.
man. Breaking news. The GTA trilogy, the definitive edition for the Switch,
Why
will
would not?
require a
Why would not
download.
surprise?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the G. You know what? I forgot to put it, but let's talk
And
about the
isn't this supposed to be a streaming game?
Let's talk about the GTA trilogy. What were your guys' initial thoughts when you saw the graphic overhaul? I wasn't a huge fan of
I was
the
about to say
graphical
I wasn't
changes.
impressed.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys because I mean I don't know if you guys played the original GTA's, but GTA 3 and GTA Vice City had a very cartoonish um, uh, art style, art
Like the
direction for those games.
like the
Um,
environment, like the environments look good. I like the way
Yeah.
the environments look. I
The
just
character models look a little off. Yeah.
yeah
I understand where you're coming from, but basically the port studio that they got doubled, the remaster studio that they got doubled down on the cartoonish aesthetics of the first two GTA games, the 3D GTA games. That's what they did. Now we can argue on whether or not that was a good idea, but I pretty much understand what they were going for. Because if you look at how the character models look for GTA San Andreas, which is the one where they kind of dialed back a lot of the cartoonish art style,
yeah.
like those characters don't look like that. They just look slightly upresed, which is But I mean, I can see where you guys are like, I didn't like it. I can appreciate your opinion.
And
I
I
hope they
wasn't
fix the
impressed.
drive. I hope they fix the driving in those games.
Yeah, well,
Oh.
they're making the driving more like the driving in GTA 5, where you use the R trigger and the left trigger for driving and handbraking, stuff like that. So they fixed it. I mean, the only downside about this game is that it is
$60.
it's $60, and I hate myself because even though it's $60, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, sometimes when it comes to your favorite stuff, sometimes you just gotta make those sacrifices.
I have bought GTA San Andreas in some form or fashion. At this point, once I get this version, I will have bought it 7 times. Because I bought it twice for the PS2, because I got it when it first came out for the PS2. And then I got it again when it hit the game Sony Selects, where it was like under $20. And then I got it for the PS3, the HD remaster, which wasn't really HD remaster. It was just the base game up-res to 720. And then I got it for the PS4 digitally, and then I got it for PC twice. So yeah, I'm gonna buy it again for $60. I hate myself sometimes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, see, I actually admit when I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I like GTA San Andreas. Because I'm a fan of GTA San Andreas. That is my favorite GTA game, and playing it with the new content, well, the new up-res graphics, makes me happy.
And yeah, the Nintendo Switch version, you got to download a portion of the game. And who's surprised
Yeah.
by this? I'm not.
Well,
I've done
it's
this
not because
before.
the Switch is weak. It's not because the Switch is weak. It's because Rockstar is cheap and they didn't want to get a bigger cartridge because you know how big this game is? 25 gigabytes. And they couldn't spring for a 32 gigabyte cartridge.
Nope.
I'm not surprised there either.
So this is a
Rock-
Rockstar issue. This is Rockstar being cheap.
Rockstar has money for days. I don't understand why they couldn't spend an extra, however much money.
You want to know why? Because Rockstar didn't have anything coming out this year, and they had to have something coming out in order to make it look good on their books. That's all this is.
It's
This
your
is them.
fiscal year flaunting.
Yeah, because they've had nothing come out all year long, and they need to have some type of they need to have some type of physical game come out this year to make it look better. So this is what they did.
They'll release
Because
this, and then next year they'll release GTA 5 for the umpteenth millionth time.
like I know people got mad at Square Enix, but for the Guardians of the Galaxy game, but that game is 150 gigabytes.
Yeah,
It's
crazy.
150 gigabytes. Okay. In order to have a cartridge to handle that, the game would cost like $120 to get it on the Switch. Okay, so clearly they had to make that choice. This is going to be a cloud-based game. For a 25 gigabyte game. That's Rockstar being cheap. That's cheap. Okay.
God, dang! It's 150 gigabytes.
Yeah, so even if you want to get it on PC, you're gonna have to empty one of your hard drives if you have other things on there. Like, I wasn't playing this. I wasn't playing this. I wasn't playing this.
This is why I bought a 10 terabyte hard drive, because the game storage is getting out of control. Like,
yeah,
it's getting.
Yeah.
I can't wait until we get the 200 gigabyte game.
Oh, I think we already have that. That new Call of Duty that came out last year. That game was 200 gigabytes.
That's nuts.
You know, it's ridiculous, man. Modern gaming, folks. Yeah. I remember back in the day where I got mad for the N64 because there were games on the N64 that you needed a memory card in order to play.
Oh yeah.
And I was mad about that. I was like, man, I gotta get a memory card.
Rayman 2.
Wish
couldn't shut off the console.
There was a lot of games like that where it's like, I gotta get a memory card. I wish the only problem we had right now was just, oh, you need a memory card to play this game. Now I gotta erase other stuff on my system to play a new game I got for my system. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't wait for
I
that.
don't think there's memory. I don't think there's even micro SD cards that are that big.
I can't wait to see that game where
I think the biggest you have is 128. No, 256 is the biggest micro SD card, I think. No, I think there is a 512 micro SD card. Let me check. I'm pretty sure. Biggest micro SD card size. I think there is a 512. No, there is a 1 terabyte size.
Yeah,
so there you go.
1 terabyte.
Yeah, you can get a 1 terabyte micro SD card. So yeah, they do have a micro SD card that goes that big. It's probably really expensive, but you can get it. Here, you can go on Amazon. Here, let me look it up. I'm probably gonna have a heart attack for this price. It's $179.99. At that point, you might as well just take that money and put it into an SD drive that's bigger.
This is the.
Unless you're a photographer, then that kind of makes sense. Or you you do a lot of like stuff with your phone, like take video and stuff.
Yeah, photography or videos. Videographers. Those raw images can get pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, that is and they're all like the biggest is almost $200. It's $189, $180, $179. The second biggest, the 512, is $69.98 on Amazon. So, yeah, that price is never going down. So
the last topic is wait, that's not it. Sorry. Halo Infinite gameplay showed. They showed gameplay for Halo Infinite. Have you guys seen that?
Now, could you
Yeah,
repeat that?
I said they showed the campaign for Halo Infinite.
Did not see it, but I mean, like, here's the thing. I'm excited for that game, like I was when it was first announced, because they fixed the images and they got rid of Craig, the guy the brute who just looks totally disinterested in being there. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna kill me, Master Chief? Oh, okay, whatever. Craig, um, like they made it to a proper game. I was like, I would have enjoyed this game had you kept Craig in, like made him into a playable character, like one of the playable characters in multiplayer. Like you had the
Yeah.
Arbiter in the past games. It's Craig the Brute. He doesn't care if you shoot him in the face. You shot me in the face. Okay, whatever. Can I go home now, please?
Yeah.
You win. You teabagged me? Oh, great. Thanks. Whatever.
When they first showed it off, I didn't think it looked terrible. I thought, well, when I first saw it, it's like I like the art style. It's probably got to spend a little bit more time in the oven, but it looked pretty good to me. But people were illogically angry about the visuals when they first showed them.
Yeah, they act like Master Chief himself broke in their house and slapped them in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, man. I mean, it's just a game. I mean, people forget how silly Halo was back in the day. Like people forgot that those little those little weakest enemies in that game, like if you shot all their friends, like one of them would get scared and run away, and it was funny. Like Halo is this ultra serious looking game that had ridiculous stuff going on in it all the time. But now people want to consider it this serious dude bro shooter, and I'm like, you really don't get it, do you?
Yeah, I don't. I just don't get people sometimes. I don't get it. You know.
But hey, they got what they wanted, a serious Halo. Now it's boring.
Yeah. I mean, I still like the way it looks. I mean, they didn't take all the color out of it, so I mean, it still doesn't look bad. It's just people just need to get the heck over themselves. But I know before we got on air, you were talking about the various problems with the Nintendo
oh
64.
boy.
Yeah. Apparently, the emulator Nintendo is using for their Nintendo 64 Online, none of the it's not been optimized to run any of the features that are on the Switch. So the online gameplay, which is a selling point for a lot of people, man, I can play Mario Kart online with my friends. The online gameplay is less than optimal.
That's
I'm being charitable. What I want, it is a PG cast, so I can't say what I really want to say. But let me put it this way: it is about what I expected, considering Nintendo's track record for the mediocrity that is their paid online service. I am not surprised. And that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, I heard some issues about the online aspect of the N64 aspect of those games. That's sad. I mean, they on the Wii and Wii U, they built specific emulators for each of those games. Like each of those games were running in their own custom-made emulator. It wasn't just
Yep.
an all-encompassing emulator. So
Yeah. But you have to remember, the company back then was run by Satoru Iwata, who by trade before he was a businessman, he was a developer, a coder. So he looked at things from a ground up approach, not a top down approach. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the new guy looks at things from a top-down approach, not a down-up approach. So he's basically like, whatever, we're going to put it on here. People will be happy. I don't care how it gets done. Just put it on there. And that's a problem because you get this where you have games running, like the sound emulation is bad. And the sad thing is that at this point, N64 emulation has come very far. I will not say it's 100% there for every N64 emulator. But a lot of N64, there's better, like they could have gone online and found a better N64 emulator than what they put on the online library for the N64. It's embarrassing. They're better than this. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, welcome to the modern era of gaming. Hopefully, with a few patches, things will be smoothed out. It shouldn't have to be that way. Shouldn't have to be that way. But unfortunately, this is the modern era of gaming.
Well, I hate to say this, but we're in the Furukawa era of Nintendo, and so far the Furukawa era of Nintendo has been mediocre. I mean, yeah, the Switch has sold gangbusters, but a lot of that was Iwata's brainchild. He handed the ball over to a new quarterback, and Furukawa's been, I'm not impressed. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know some people get mad when they hear that. Oh, what do you mean? I'm like,
If anything, I know that you're not impressed. And if anything, it's probably going to be a long time before we see any changes.
yeah, because Furukawa's a young man, so he's going to be here a long time. With his mediocre management strategy.
Well, is there any other topics you guys would like to bring up before we wrap it up?
Not that I know of.
I don't know. Anyone play any good games lately?
I've just been mainly
Nothing.
playing Smash Brothers lately.
No one played any good games lately?
But nothing particularly new.
I've been doing Smash a lot too, so
I also been playing a little bit more of Eastward. Eastward.
Yep.
Um,
That game is really good.
yeah, that is a good game.
Like much better than it has any business being.
Yeah.
Like on paper, that game should be terrible, or at least like mediocre. But then you play it and you realize these people put a lot of love into this game, like a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that in a lot of games these days. I'm amazed because normally you just get, I released a game and it did this. They actually put some real effort into the game. They actually, they actually did something and cared.
Yeah.
How long it is I've seen an indie. Well, indie studios mostly do that. They do care about their games. Like a lot of games get kind of cynical and just we'll do the bare minimum and that's good enough. You don't get that with the Eastward. I've started putting together my game of the year list. Because it's easier to get on top of things early.
Yeah, I gotta
What I will.
I gotta
No, go
finish
ahead.
Yeah, I gotta finish some games. Probably should be
Yeah.
on there.
Well, you don't have to finish a game for it to be your game of the year. It's just, does it meet certain criterion for you? Is it engaging? Do you enjoy playing it? When you go to sleep, do you dream about that game? That could be a game of the year. I will say this much though: The Ascent is on my list of one of my top 10 games of the year, and it's pretty high up there.
The Ascent.
Um, the Ascent, yes.
Oh yeah, that game. Yeah,
Like
that game
I
is
thought I
good.
was gonna. Yeah, and the thing is, I thought I was going to give that game lower because it's only like you can beat it in under 30 hours. But the game is so engaging that I just kind of like, and it's like, how many games do you play where you're like, man, I want to go back to that game. I want to know more about that world. I want to know more about like the different creatures and aliens and politics like that. I mean, they built a world you want to get lost in and see more of. Just if you do, just make sure you have a really good gun in your hand because people will mess with you and then you'll have to shoot them in the face,
Yeah.
which I did in that game. Shot a lot of people in the face. I was okay with that.
I was okay with that.
I was like, oh, you want to mess with me? Now I got to shoot you in the face.
So, Psychonauts 2 definitely belongs on that list, at least for me.
Oh, yeah. Psychonauts 2 is great. I haven't played it as much as I would like, but every time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go play something else. I'm gonna go back to other games. Something else comes out that monopolizes my time.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Like,
problem. There's so many games that come out each year.
yeah, there are games I was looking forward to coming out this year that have been pushed back to next year. I'm like, thank goodness, because I don't think I could have gotten to you. Like what's it called? Um, Shadow. What was it called? Shadow Warrior. Shadow Warrior 3 was supposed to come out this year. It's got pushed back to next year, and I'm like, good, because I can't. I don't have the time to play Shadow Warrior 3.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I just don't have the time. I mean, I have the time, but it's like I'll get absorbed. Like right now, I'm trying to get legendary in SWOTOR. I'm trying to play all this other stuff. I can't keep up with all that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's anyway. You been what have you been playing, Jewel?
Let's see. I've been going through Smash. I've been trying to do. I've been trying Nexomon, and actually, I've been playing a bit of Shovel Knight too.
I like Shovel Knight. I like the first game. I like the first game that came out. I'm also kind of a fan of the one where you play as Plague Knight.
Yeah.
And even the one where you play as the guy with the scythe, whose name escapes me, is kind of fun. King Knight,
Like,
meh.
I was about to say King Knight's the weakest sauce of the bunch.
It kind of. I wish Yacht Club Games would just quit messing around and make Shovel Knight 2
Yeah.
with 16-bit graphics.
Considering that they made a Shovel Knight board game of all things, that's gonna be a while.
I get it, but I mean, at this point, I want Shovel Knight 2. No, Shovel Knight board game wouldn't monopolize their time because it's a board game that doesn't require huge amounts of coding. But yeah, at this point, I want Shovel Knight 2 with 16-bit graphics, idealized 16-bit graphics. So then have that game sell well, so then they can make a Shovel Knight 3 that's in 3D. Like a 3D platformer with Shovel Knight. Yeah. Hitting people with a shovel.
Yeah, I can tell you'd really dig it. Oh God, I'm sorry about that one.
No, that was a good pun. I like Shovel Knight. I mean, I'm not saying it's the best. It's not the best 2D game ever, but it came at the right time and it was the right thing, you know.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it was perfect timing.
All right. Well, anything you'd like to pimp out before we call it a night?
Yeah, have a podcast tomorrow. I finally tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. The BS Busters podcast, where we will be discussing some topics we were going to discuss Saturday, but technical issues came up, and so just moved it to
I was
Wednesday.
gonna say technical issues highlight.
Yeah, but on top of that, also I finally did my re-review of Fallout New Vegas. Look forward to that. That came out Friday. If you guys get a chance, go to the channel BS Busters. You'll find it. Also, I will be uploading a re-review of KOTOR, the very first KOTOR, this Friday. So look forward to that. And the week after, I'll be doing KOTOR too. So yeah, re-reviews every Friday. We're back.
Joel, do you have
Yeah,
anything?
For me, I don't got much, but I'm at least trying to sort my thoughts out before I try to put up anything right now. I had a weekend of hex.
I'm probably going to do a video. I don't know when it's going to come out, but basically a retrospective of the Wii U and the hypocrisy pertaining to that console. So, yeah. Well,
I agree. There is some hypocrisy.
Well, this has been another episode of Project Console. Glad for my panelists for coming out, and glad for anybody who has watched this live or who will watch this on the replay. And we are out.
Later.